Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. We're back with the Ted Show. I finally convinced this young man, an old friend, to come on the show. Dr. Mitchell Fine is with us. He's a chiropractic genius guru. I'm going to say all these things. He's also a fun guy, a giving human being. He gives back to the community a lot. If you don't know Dr. Fine, you will in a little bit. And trust me, you're going to want to spend time with him because he's amazing. Dr. Fine, how are you today? What's going on?
Hi, Ted. Thanks for inviting me on.
I'm excited to have you. I love the topic of anything chiropractic because I was such a naysayer for so long, and it wasn't about the science of it. It was about my own fear of hearing bones crack or, oh my God, I'm going to be, I can't even tell you the people that think this stuff, be paralyzed. How is this even going to help me? There's no way. I just didn't do my research, and most of it had to do with the fact that I was afraid. So I have a lot of people who also messaged me when I posted that and said, I'm afraid too, Ted. I want to learn more. So before we take a deep dive into that, let's learn about you. Give us some background on you, my friend.
So I grew up in a aviation family. My father is, well, he's passed, but he was a pioneer in helicopter aviation, flew airplanes, was a mechanic, started a helicopter company that is in its day was in several countries, and it was huge, big
Wow.
50, 60 helicopters. I was around airplanes and helicopters my whole early life. I flew them, I worked around them, and so I got to understand the structure affecting functioning, and that if as human beings we're walking in certain ways that are wearing different parts, we're going to eventually break down. And I could
Interesting.
see that. So when I actually needed a chiropractor when I was a teenager, and it worked really well, and he explained to me what he was doing, and that he was a structural doctor. It 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 meshed with my own wanting to continue on skill wise using my hands, and it just was turning out that to in aviation with glasses back then, you were shut out of the airlines.
Sure.
Um, Even though I was really talented as a airplane and helicopter pilot, my father was a very tough act to follow. So I kind of struck out on a different path.
Well, you went down this path, which is we had a comment already. Hey, Gabby, it's life changing. She said. I think people, it's a misunderstood science. I think people don't know enough about it to understand the values and benefits. So let's take a deep dive. Let's talk about it. It can be non-invasive, which is one of the topics that we chose for today. But give us a broad range or a broad definition of what chiropractic actually does for us.
Okay, so the actual definition was taken from Greek and was called done by hand. So this is a new age where we have technology, and I was always embracing technology because I always liked the latest aircraft, the latest edition, and I went to undergraduate school at New York Institute of Technology, which was a big computer school, and they had a great life science department too. So I was around all these computer geeks and in the late 70s, and I even had one of my college courses was on computer. So even with my dyslexia, I just kind of embraced um, technology, and so when after chiropractic school, and I got to be very proficient with manual adjusting, with the cracking and moving people in one way or another to uh, to isolate the structure that needed moving, and to have that quickness to move it. I started to see the weaknesses of what I was doing, especially what bothers me is any patient that fails. That drives me crazy. And so
How do
I
they
was
fail?
able
What
to,
is it that they fail at? It fails to bring them relief, or they're not getting what they need. Well, how does that work? Because I think a lot of
okay,
people probably have
sure.
felt
So what happens with a failure patient is sometimes their body, you're not your language, your chiropractic language failed to update and to interface with their biological computer.
interesting.
So what I've learned is that instrumentation, which is like this instrument here, is the most advanced instrument in chiropractic. It's called the Impulse IQ. But I started with non-invasive light touch techniques, and then eventually I got into activator, which is very well branded in the chiropractic profession. And I went up uh, to become I continued with the schooling and became an advanced proficiency activator doctor for a long time. And the results were great. I could take patients that were failures with regular chiropractic and other musculoskeletal treatments and turn them around with the activator instrument and the activator analysis. But I was always looking for something better. Um, and so I also continued occasionally to use the manual adjusting. So I have those skills still
And
preserved.
tell us what actually happens when I think most people think of the manual adjustments when they think of a chiropractor. They think of the you're gonna hey this is you're gonna hear a crack. I mean I can't even tell you how many times people have said that in the movies. So they have this anticipation. What actually happens and how is it beneficial when you're doing the manual adjustments?
Okay, so when these bones throughout our body have a lot of different movements, and within their movements, as we have wear and tear, these articulations can become fixed and they don't move properly. So it's almost like a machine that is supposed to go like this and it only goes like this. Well, that's increasing the wear and tear, and in a machine, something is going to have a catastrophic failure. In human beings, we have a great deal of adaptability, and the body doesn't care if you're kind of like in chronic pain, so long as it provides you with the best option for moving around. So what a chiropractor does will isolate, will analyze and use different diagnostic techniques to to find what the problem is, and then with manual adjusting, you're going to isolate, find the range of motion that it's fixated in, and just give a thrust as gentle as possible to free that up and to reestablish normal movement and to work with that over time to get it things as good as you can. And then with this instrument, what I can do is just tap everything back in, and you see the beep is because the instrument detected movement in the bone and stopped. And the machine, right, and the instrument also is able to adjust the frequency of its firing based on the feedback it's getting from the tissue or the bones or whatever I'm trying to affect with it. It's a computerized, well-researched machine, and so it gives me the ability to be much more uh, specific, and I don't have to move the patient around. They can stay still. I can actually position lasers at different parts on their bodies while I'm doing the instrument. So I have a whole lot of things going on at the same time, and I have a whole lot of objectives that I'm trying to do. So um,
I
it's a
love
lot of
that
fun.
machine. What's that little gun looking thing called?
Oh, this is called a Impulse IQ,
Love it.
and it was designed by a chiropractic researcher in conjunction with an orthopedic surgeon and a biomechanical engineer. And it's fantastic.
Because sometimes I think people, I know from my experience, it's very hard to describe where the discomfort is, and how wonderful to have the impulsinator. You're going to have to tell me the name of that.
Just
Time.
don't call it an impersonator.
But I can tell where that would be a little more targeted. I think you said that word, or specific.
Specific, yes, targeted, yeah.
Because then there are some ways, like, how do I describe it's 3/4 of an inch down from my shoulder blade, Mitch, or you don't. Sometimes that's where it is, and if you're not hitting it, it doesn't feel like anything's being done. That's not necessarily true.
Right.
But how awesome for there be something that is so isolated and specific, as you said, to hit. Because I think that's what people feel. Everybody's got a different moan and groan in their lives, something that's impacted them. Like right now, I feel like my shoulders are tight. And I know that impacts my overall health. And so we had a lot of questions about this before we went live. How does having an adjustment impact your overall health and well-being? I mean, it sounds like it's going to hurt. It sounds like it's going to target the one place. I'm sharing all the wives' tales with you, so you can negate.
Sure.
And yet, I don't understand how that's going to do anything for the rest of my body problems.
Well, the system that I have refined and developed through several different chiropractic analysis and my experience, I can explain it to any doctor. So I can take a medical doctor and show them exactly what I'm doing, and show them the orthopedic test that we all know how to do, and show them the dysfunction in the hip, and then take this instrument and adjust the hip and immediately show an increased range of motion, which is going to lead to inflammation decreasing, more strength to the muscles, and healing. And then I can do the next orthopedic check. I can use palpation, which we've all learned to isolate muscles, bones, trigger points, and put the whole thing together. So what these guys have done with mechanical adjusting is they have put together a lot of research from Activator and this company, Neuromechanical Innovations, and they present these papers all over the world. So, so chiropractic is you can't say it's not scientific. It's scientific and it's reproducible. The instrument, everything about it is designed to be reproducible. A chiropractor, it's an art, and each thrust can be similar because we practice it for so many years. But this is can be researched. It's reproducible, and the research on this instrument was published in Spine magazine.
Nice.
So, and then the Dr. Kaloka, who I got along with him really well. He's just one of the top guys in chiropractic. He hired me for 5 years. I would demonstrate the instrument for chiropractors at one of the largest chiropractic conventions here in Orlando. And I used to teach the doctors about this technology and show them, how to greatly improve their results. And a lot of them went ahead and took the seminars and bought the instruments. And so I've had guys come up to me and say, you changed my path, my career, and I've been helping my patients better since you worked with me.
So tell them who a good patient is, because I think people have a misconception, and part of the reason why they also don't visit a chiropractor is they don't exactly know what kind of patients you treat.
Okay, so That's a good question because patients sometimes, if they get a certain diagnosis, they think, well, now I can't see a chiropractor. So you need to find someone that you trust that can say, well, I can help with this problem or not. And at the same time, there are patients that I have that have had surgeries that I'm working around the surgery, but I'm helping them with their pain and their disability, and they're getting better along with the fact that the surgery worked, but there's still a lot of rehab left to do. So as far as a patient, what if you have pain and you have disability, and it's even in your I adjust feet, knees, the pelvis, the low back,
It's really anywhere, right?
shoulders. I adjust neck.
If somebody comes to you and says, I'm in chronic pain, um, isn't that a good person to come talk to you? Because obviously their other option is pain management. And a lot of people are trying very hard not to go down that path. And so if they've got anything that they feel like they're suffering with that is, I feel like it doesn't, people overestimate their power, and it doesn't have to be debilitating, but if you're at the point where it's getting close, I would encourage people not to wait. It's better to get into you, correct?
Right. Well, chronic pain is I've treated a lot of chronic pain patients over the years, uh, and it's very rewarding to have answers when they've been suffering for a long time. I had this clinic that I'm working in has several MDs, two nurse practitioners, an acupuncturist, a PhD psychotherapist. It's very diverse, all the things that the doctors are doing, when we really get along well. But they had one patient with she was had an addiction problem, and her pain level was 8 out of 10, had been that way for years. So I very quickly was able to drop her pain level down substantially. And then their treatment program, she sailed right through the treatment program, because now the cause of why she had gone in, gone into this world of addiction was taken care of, so that uh, she could get better.
It's crazy because you think about it. If you have ever experienced chronic pain, you know that it can be difficult to do other things in life, just living your basic life in a normal way. And so, of course, it impacts everything you're doing. And a lot of people, as we know, we've got an interesting crisis in our country. So you just finding your way that makes sense for you. Why just sit on the sidelines? That's what I tell people who are like, well, I don't know. How's that going to help me? Well, you're not going to know until you go talk to a professional. I am one to sit here and tell you that, again, I was definitely skeptical. And not because I didn't believe in the friends that I knew in the business, like you and like Chris, who just popped on. It's because I had never experienced it and couldn't figure out how it could possibly help me. And so that's the same thing about going to your doctor, guys. You don't know how the doctor's going to help you, but they're going to have some means to get you diagnosed and get the treatment and work with you on the treatment that's best for you.
That's right. I have 37 years of experience as a
You were
chiropractor.
a baby when you got out.
Well, I was in my late 20s, but
All right. So how do they reach you? If somebody wants to come and get cracked by Dr. Mitchel Fine at Dr. Fine Wellness, or wants to learn more about what they can do, what you can do for them with your expertise, how do they reach you?
okay. So my website is drfinewellness.com. I'm in uh, Winter Park on University Boulevard, close to Full Sail. Um, So the address is 7151 University Boulevard, Suite 120, and that's Winter Park 32792.
I like how you still haven't lost your New York accent.
After, yeah,
No,
37 years in Florida.
I was born in Jersey, but I can hear that accent a mile away, and I love when people just still have it. You still have it. You still do it. I love it. All right,
Imagine I've lived here so
Mitchell,
much longer.
Dr. Mitchell Fine, Advanced Non-Invasive Chiropractic, drfinewellness.com. Go talk to him. I know you guys are suffering because you come to me and ask me what I do, and I could do better at being more proactive in my health journey. And so if you're in that mode, I seriously can encourage you to reach out to Dr. Fine. Thanks, my friend, for being on. You're awesome. drfinewellness.com. Don't forget,
Thank
guys.
you, Ted.
All right.
Thanks
Thank you.
for